Okay, I'm going to show you how to show your work on Excel. And if this looks a little different than your course that you're working on right now, that's because I'm still working on the course shell, so there might be a few little differences here. But you'll see in each one of these modules, you're going to have a show your work on Excel for the quizzes, right? And so in order for me to explain this, let's go down to module 2 because it has a few more problems in the quizzes. Sometimes, there are text problems where you don't need to show your work. And so if you go in here, if you click on this, it says show your work on Excel. You can submit unlimited times. I'm probably going to grade the last one you submitted if you submit it more than once. I only want one worksheet submitted for both quizzes, so don't submit a worksheet. I mean a workbook for 4, a workbook for 5. Do it one workbook. So you only submit one thing. And then this is the rubric. I want you to use Excel formulas and functions. I want separate labeled worksheets in the workbook for each quiz problem you work. I want given, find, and solution sections. I want your work to be professional. I want you to show your work on Excel for all the quiz problems submitted that required numerical calculations. Okay. So this is the grading rubric. Now, one thing about like these quizzes, you'll see later that you're allowed to take these quizzes more than once, and I'll take the quiz that has the maximum score. So this part here, you really only need to show your work for the quiz you submitted that had the maximum score, although it's allowable to show all your work. In fact, you may want to document all your work because you can use your quizzes as kind of notes when you go take the midterm and the final exam. So let's go before we get into this too far. I'll do this later as far as submitting this, because you got to work the quizzes and show you're going to use Excel to work on the quizzes. When you're complete, then you're going to show your work. I put this above here because I want you to know that don't do these quizzes while working on Excel as you go. So I'm going to go into chapter 4, and it says you have 5 attempts. Take the maximum score, and if you go to start attempt, it shows you these quizzes are drawn from a pool, which is the same pool is used in the midterm and final exams. There's no time limit on the quizzes. You can take them up to 5 times. Your maximum score, so the highest score out of the 5 retakes, or how many retakes you've done, that's going to be what's recorded. And it says here you should retake the quiz until you feel comfortable with the subject matter. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. And by the way, each quiz is worth 10 points. I'm going to go continue. So it says here, if interest rates are positive, the present and future values of an annuity due will be higher than the. So this one you can probably figure out without it doing any doing any math. What it's trying to say here, an annuity due means like if you go buy a car, or normally you're going to make your payment at the end of the month, right? You're not going to make the payment at the time you receive the car. They're going to give you money, and that money you're going to turn around and pay for the, that loan is going to allow you to get the car, right? So they're giving you money at the time, and a month later you're going to make your payment. Well, annuity due means you'd give that money right now, right? And that means the present value would be higher, right? So annuity due just means all the payments are shifted one to the left. If you look at an ordinary annuity is when the first payment is at the end of the month and all the payments are shifted to the right. So that means the annuity due, all the payments would be shifted to the left. So that means the present value would be higher because you're shifting that first payment to the left. And also, since you started if you're going the other way, if you're trying to calculate the future value, since you started investing a little bit more money earlier, it's also going to make the future value higher. So you can kind of reason that out. I'm not going to work that out on a problem. So I just gave you the answer to this. So if you get that in a quiz, you know the answer. All right. Let's go to the next one. So here's one. Triangle Pediatrics is faced with multiple investment alternatives to pay interest as indicated in A through E below. Assuming Triangle Pediatrics has to invest $100 today, which alternative will give them the most money at the end of the year? So this is a perfect Excel question. So I'm going to go. So what I'm going to do is when I want you to show your work on Excel, I'm going to hit the Window key, and I'm working on a Windows key, or a Windows computer, right? So if you have an Apple computer, you might do this a little different. But so I'm going to hit the window key, hold it down, hit the shift key, hold it down, S-H-I-F-T, the shift key, and then hold down the S key, S as in Sam. And it's going to bring up this little screenshot thing. And I'm just going to say here, I'm just going to highlight this question 2. And then I'm going to go down here. Now, Office 365 is available for free. The education version is available for free. If you're a St. Thomas student, and I'm gonna leave. There's a link there in this course shell under course resources where you can go get it. Now, you can. The thing you need to know about Excel when you get Office 365, there's a web version which is kind of an Excel Lite. You can also download it to your computer. So if you can, you want to try to figure out how to. There's a way to download the Office to your computer, install on your computer. Then you get the real version of Excel. So you always want to do that because the web version of Excel is Excel Lite. So right now I have the installed version. So I'm just going to go EXE to get Excel up. EXE enter. And I'm going to go Control V to paste that thing that it is. So you always want to paste the original problem in here because that way you don't have to be going back and forth. So I just shrunk this down a little bit and then I'm going to zoom in so I can see what's going on. So I just want to have the cells be a little bit bigger so you can see what's going on. So I pasted in the original problem. Now this is a worksheet. So I'm going to go ahead and double click down here and I'm going to go Q chapter 4 problem 2. So I'm labeling I want to have each problem that I show my work on. I want it to be a separate labeled worksheet in the workbook. So this is a worksheet. I can add another worksheet by going to this plus sign, and when I can label that one when I get down. So I can keep adding worksheets in here. All right. So I'm going to go given. First, I want to put in the things I'm given, and I'm going to go bold underline. And normally, when you're doing chapter 4 problems, they're time value of money problems. If you're doing a time value of money problem, it usually has the number of periods, an interest rate, a present value, a payment, and a future value. Now sometimes, some of these are going to be given and some you have to solve, and some, if they don't give you just have to assume they're 0. So we have A, we have alternative A, right? And alternative B. Now Excel has built-in intelligence into it, so I can highlight these two. And then I just kind of know I want C, D, and E. Well, not always, right? So I didn't do that in that case. So then you have to go C, D, E. A lot of times it'll smart fill that, right? So these are the alternatives. And then, so in the first one, this is 1 year. So all these are going to be 1 year, right? And then R, we have different R's, right? So R for this one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave another row in here because I'm gonna Control Z. I want to insert, so I'm gonna right click here and I'm gonna go insert. And I'm gonna say compounded because they have different compounding rates here. Okay, so we're gonna put that in here, and then so R here is 9.9%. And I always put the percent. That way it knows it's a decimal. Excel knows that that's 0.099, right? And this is compounded 2 times per. Whoops, that goes up here. So I'm going to drag this up here. I go to the outside of this border. I can drag it up. So it's compounded 2 times per year. And then this is 9%. It's compounded 365 times per year. This one is 9.9%, and it's compounded quarterly, right? So that's 4 times per year. No, monthly, right? You got to be careful, get this information in there correctly. And this is 9.5%, and it's compounded quarterly, which is 4 times per year. And the last one is 10%. Compounded annually 1 time per year. So I'm going to go times per year. Right? Okay? So we have, let's just double check, 9.9% compounded semi-annually, which is 2 times per year. 9% compounded daily, 365. 9.9 monthly is 12, 9.5 quarterly is 4, 10%, and yearly is 1 time per year. All right. And the present value, so we're going to invest $100 today. So I'm going to go equals a negative one. I don't need to go equal. So I'm going to go a negative 100, right? So I put the dollar sign because it formats it the way I like. So if I put the dollar sign, it does it red when it's negative, and I kind of like that. So we'll go ahead and that. So that's the same investment every year. It doesn't mention a payment. So in this case, since it doesn't mention a payment, they're assuming you're not making any payment during the year, right? And then, so what are we going to have in the future? So we don't know that. And then what we want to find. So the next thing I'm going to do is find we want to find which alternative is going to have the most money. Right? So that's what we want to find. So for a solution, well, in order to find which alternative has the most money, we have to calculate the future value for each one of those. So the nice thing about Excel's got future value. It's got a lot of finance functions built into it. So I can go equals future value, and I can put in the rate. So in this case, the rate is 9.9% every twice a year. So it's actually 4 point. Well, we can look here. If I hit this little f of x, after I hit this little parentheses, you can see what's going on. I can go in here and click this, and it's showing me it's 4.95% every 6 months. Number of periods, well, it's 2 periods in the year. The payment is 0, and the present value is what we're going to solve for. Don't worry about this. This has to do with the first payment. There's no payments in this case. But if you're making payments, it would be at the beginning of the year, which if you put a 1 here, that's called an annuity due, or whatever, the beginning of the month, or whatever time frame, whatever frequency you're using. If you're doing it right away, it'd be 1. At the end of period, it would be, we wouldn't put anything there because it's a 0. If you put a 0, that means you don't have to put anything there. So ignore that for now. So we're not putting in present value because we're solving for that. Then I can go okay. Oh no, we need to put in present value. I'm sorry. Let me hit f of x again. Present value is what that's how we're putting in here. Now notice I put 100 because this is money I'm investing. It's coming out of my pocket. I put it negative. So my answer is going to be positive because Excel pays attention to the direction of cash flows. Am I making a payment? Am I getting a payment? Am I investing money or am I getting money back? In this case, we're investing $100. So it's money coming out of our pocket, and then at the end of the year, we're getting money back. So now I can go, okay, so that's 110.15. Now here's the beauty of Excel. I can just drag it across. I'll do it for each one of those, right? Let me put the formula in here. I'll put the formula for this last one. So you should have formulas in here. You shouldn't be picking up a calculator. You should be using Excel formulas that refer back to this data that you put up above here, right? Now this is a pretty complicated problem for if you're just getting used to Excel. Don't worry. Some of them are easier than this. This is like we're working actually 5 problems at once. So you could do 1 problem at a time, but I know how to work 5 at once, right? So I know how to do this pretty efficiently because I've been using Excel for a while. But theoretically, you could work this problem and then go work this problem and then go work this problem. It doesn't matter how you solve it. I'm just solving it the most efficient way that I can think of. All right, and the next thing we can do, now which one is the most? Because we want the one that's most. So you just look at this, and it appears that alternative D gives you the highest. And it kind of makes sense because it's the highest rate to begin with. But this could be better, right? You don't know. But you know that this is superior to D, E, or A, right? So this one you don't know if it's superior, but 9.9% is the same. Here you're compounding more times per year. So you're going to have more money, right? This is lower and you're compounding less. This is higher. Well, this one could have been true. You can't just tell by looking. The better way is to calculate them all. So the answer is this one appears to be the highest, right? Now I could do this if I want to get really fancy. I could highlight these. I could go formulas. Oh, I'm sorry. I can go to conditional formatting. Highlight top bottom rule. Instead of top 10, I could go top 1 and highlight with yellow fill with dark yellow. And then we know that C is the answer, right? So I go. So now I've answered that, right? So now I know C is the answer because that's the highest. So you see how it automatically formatted the highest one. All right. So you don't have to do that. I'm just getting real fancy. Now you don't have to put this. Notice how I put formula text to show the formulas in this last cell. Well, you don't have to do that. I just did that for you to see what's going on. If I hit Control. Well, I hit Control and then the tilde, the number right beside the number 1 on your keyboard, it shows all the formulas. So you don't have to do that. I can go look right away. Remember, you need to use formulas in here, so or your own formula, all right? So anyway, so that's how you do that one. Now, don't get scared. That's like a lot, right, for your first problem you look if you're not used to finance. Don't worry, you'll get used to this the more you do it, right? You just need to get started and start working on it, all right? So let's go to another problem. So I finished that problem. So let's go back to, whoops. By the way, this is how complicated you can get models, right? Excel is great for modeling things. This is a YouTube video I'm working on. By the way, if you have a question, by the way, since this came up, I didn't want to show you that, but I didn't intend it. But if you go here, if you go to YouTube, and you put in my name. Now there's other YouTube places out there too, but I'll just show you my channel. And you click on my picture, and then it shows. Scroll down, it shows how to on Excel, and I have different channels. And I have one for finance Excel, so you can go down here to view the full playlist, and it shows all the different ones. So calculating the future value. These are things you might happen to you. Some of them are beyond the scope of this class. But some of them are things or problems you might be trying to solve, right? So you could look for it here. Now, I'm not showing you this to get you to subscribe to my channel or anything like that. I'm just trying to, I'm showing you this because if you don't understand something, you can ask me to make a YouTube video because you're my student, and I'll make you a YouTube video. Just, if it's due on Monday and you're trying to get me to make a YouTube video on Sunday night, that won't work. But if you, if you're, working on it earlier in the week, go check and see if I have a YouTube video to help you. If not, ask me, email me, or let me know, and I can make a YouTube video. Okay, so let's continue to the next one. So here it says you buy a 6-year. So let's calculate this one again. We'll just do one more problem just to show you how this works. This is a little simpler problem though. And this is the other one I had to do this problem 6 times to get the answer. This one I only have to do once. So I'm going to Control-Shift-S in order to copy this. So I'm going to go back to Excel. And now I'm going to go here. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so I can zoom in so you guys can see it. I'm going to label this Q Chapter 4 Problem 2. Okay, and then, this is Problem 3, isn't it? Try it. It tells me you repeated that. It's Problem 3. Okay, then I'm going to zoom in so we can see what's going on. Sometimes this does that. You got to move it around a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go given. And I remember, like I told you, in finance, time value money problems, a lot of times it's just N. Not all the time. But a lot of times I can see right away I'm going to use the same thing. This is the same thing you see across the front of your financial calculator. Oops, usually it goes future present value, PMT, in that order, right? So future value. So, like if I go here to, if I go out to HP12C emulator, And if I go in there, you can see it has N, R, PV, PMT, future value. So almost all financial calculators have those 5 keys, right? So I just do them in the order you usually see in a financial calculator. That's kind of the language of finance there. So let's go back to this. So here it says it's 8%. So we're 8%. Well, we know that's R. So I'm going to go 8. Remember to put the percent. And that's, I like to go per year. So in order to go per, if I just do a division sign, here, whoops. If I just do a division sign, because in math, whoops, let me hit escape here. If I just do the divisions, why is it doing that? If I do the division sign, it's going to think it's math. So I always go apostrophe per, because now it knows it's text. The division sign is just like equals. Division, multiply, subtract. It's going to think it's math. So I have to do a little apostrophe, and that's per year, right? And N, well, it says it's 6 years. So in my given, I'm just trying to put in, the numbers here mainly, and then anything else. So R, it also says compounded semi-annual. I could put it over here. I could say compounded, or I could say semi-annual is how many times per year, and go 2 times per year, right? That's how many times it's compounded. And then the present value, well, we're investing $1,000. So I'm gonna go negative 1,000. Remember, I like to put that dollar sign because it makes it the format I like, which is red when it's negative. And it doesn't say anything about a payment, so I'm going to put 0. And we want to know what it's going to be at maturity, what it's going to be in the future. So money's coming out of my pocket because it's a savings certificate. And then in the future, I'm going to get money, right? Because I'm earning 8% a year. Does that make sense? So notice how I very, very concisely first I put that pretty mindlessly, and then I took these numbers and put them in here. And then you don't want to forget about the compounding, right? That's very important. And so next thing we're going to do, we're going to go find, right? So I'll put the find down here. Yeah, and you already know what you want to find. It might sound redundant, but it's always good to restate what you want to find. Sometimes, like on the previous question, we found the future value, but that's not what we wanted to find. We wanted to find which one had the most money at the end of the year, right? So it's always good to restate that. And then I'll do the solution over here to the right. That's okay to do. If you don't want to scroll up and down and you have room on your worksheet, you can do the solution over here to the right. That's fine. So one way I could do the future value, I'm going to call it the brute force method. So I'm going to use the brute force. I'm going to show you there's more than one way to solve a lot of these problems. I'll call it the brute force solution because I'm just going to show you what's going on. So I'm going to have year. I'm going to say beginning balance and ending balance, right? So year one that's when we invest our money, right? So our beginning balance. I'm going to make this, so Excel and your financial calculator, you need to show the direction of the cash flow. So you're going to have negative and positive, right? If you put positive here, you're going to get a negative future value. With math, I'm going to do this math. Math doesn't know it's finance, right? So I'm just going to use math here. So I'm going to say it equals a negative this, right, to make it a positive number. And then the ending balance at the end of the year is going to be equal to, well, maybe we should, I'm going to do this a little bit different because that's compounded semi-annually, right? So I'm going to go period. All right. So if it's compounded semi-annual in 6 years, I'm actually going to have, so if I can go 1 and 2 like this. If I highlight it, I'm actually going to have 12 periods, aren't I? So the ending balance, because this is every 6 months, it's going to be compounding it. So the ending balance is going to be equal to 1,000, which is equal to whatever I had at the beginning when I started, times 1 plus this 8%. And then I'm going to go F4 because I'm going to drag this down, divided by 2. And I'm going to F4 that. Now, F4 types these dollar signs here and it makes it an absolute reference. So when I drag this down, it's always going to point at those because I don't want it to be pointing at that because that's not an interest rate. I don't want this to move. So in order to always, in all my, is this telling Excel, make that an absolute reference. Don't move off of here when you copy this formula down or to the right or whatever, right? Now you can type these dollar signs by hand. If you have a laptop, you might have to hit the function, the FN key and F4 to get those dollar signs. So it's a little bit different. And on my computer, I just hit F4. So it's a desktop computer, desktop Windows computer. And then, so I'm taking my initial balance, $1,000. Now, we know 8% divided by 2 is 4%, right? So let's go ahead and take these all out to a couple places. So I could have done this. This is what you shouldn't do. If you go in here and go, well, I know that's 4%, so I just go 4%. Well, what if I change these numbers? What if I change this to 7 and this to 12? Well, then this isn't going to change, right? So that's not the right way to do it. Even though this will give you the correct answer, if I go Control Z, let me put the formula in here. All right, it's gonna give you the correct answer, but Control Z takes you back, right? So I took it back to what I originally had. So if I type 4%, I'm gonna get the same answer, right? But don't do that, because I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna see you put 4% in there. I'm gonna say, well, you're not referencing back to the original, because now if I change this to 7, now the answer changes. If I just hard code 4% in there, because I know 8 divided by 2 is 4. That's not the proper way to use Excel. I'm going to go Control Z, back to where we were. Okay, so now we know the beginning balance of the next period is going to be equal to the ending balance of that period, right? And then at this point, since I formatted this one the correct way, I can just double click here to send this down. I can double click here to send this down. You can see that it's stuck. It's stuck to B13 and over D13 because I didn't want it to move. And this is the answer down here at the end, right? So that's the answer to that. And let's take it out. Let's take these out one more place. 160103 is that answer there? Yeah, so it looks like it's B. So another way I could do it, I could do this. I could go algebra, or I could use the finance future value formula. Solution. So any one of these would be the right way to do it, right? But I'm just showing you, you want to get away from doing it this long way. Now you could use this formula. Some people are old school and they like to use formula. So I could go the future value. Well, it's equal to, well, again, it's going to be I'm going to reference back to this, right? So I'm going to go negative this. And it's going to be times, parentheses, 1 plus, well, it's going to be this divided by this, because it's going to be 4% every 6 months. And then the number of periods is going to be parentheses, this times this to get the number of periods, right? It's going to be 12 periods. So what I'm doing is I'm taking $1,000. I made it negative because, again, this is math. It doesn't know it's finance. It's an algebra formula. So I'm going to go negative. Negative makes it a positive 1,000 times 1 plus 4%, right? Because it's 4% if it's 8% compounded annually, it's going to be 4% over 12 6-month periods. So this makes it 4%, and then 6 times 2 makes it 12%, and I get the same answer, right? So that's the algebra formula way to do it. So I just want to show you there's a lot of different ways to do it. Now, whoops. I want to copy this. Copy, Control V. Okay, so here's the way I would do it. I'm going to use the future value Excel function. So like you saw in the last problem, you can use Excel, right? And it has built-in functions. And the way I would do that, I'll go equals future value. Now, that has, Excel has, it can calculate PMT, you can calculate the number of periods, you can calculate the rate, you can calculate all these things, right? There's functions for all that in Excel. Excuse me, I had to mute the mic for a second because I had to cough. All right, so anyway, so there's a little cheater down here. And it tells you like the rate is in bold. So that's the function argument box, right? So it's asking for the rate. So we know the rate is this, right? But since this is compounded semi-annually, we're going to do just like we did up here in the other formula. I'm going to say it's equal to this divided by this because it's 4% per year, right? And the number of periods is 2 times 6, which is because we know it's 12 periods. Now, if you want to see if you're putting this in right, after you hit this parentheses, like you can, if you know what you're doing, you can just use this, right? But after you put this parentheses, you can go ahead and hit this f of x button, and it shows you what you're doing here. So 0.04 is a decimal form of percent, and then we know it's 12 periods. And the payment, we can actually work on it here if we want to. I can go payment is this, and the present value is this. And then if I go OK, it gives me the same answer. Right? We don't need this out so many places, do we? Okay. So that's how you can do it with Excel. Control C, Control D. Okay. All right. So that's 3 ways you could do it. So any way of these is correct. I just want you to show your work. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I also could do it on a financial calculator if I want to check myself. So remember when we went out here, we can go, this is a financial calculator here. This is a little bit different to use. So I could go 12 is my N, and I could go 4 is my I. I go 1,000, so I'm investing 1,000, so I'm going to change sign to make it negative as my present value. 0 is my payment, and I can go future value. It gives me 1603. So financial calculators are good to use just to check your work. You know, you can do it more than one way. Remember, you still need to show your work on Excel, but you can check your work with a financial calculator. All right, so we're pretty sure we've done it like 4 ways now, so the answer is B. All right, so let's assume we're all done. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. Now it's telling me I didn't do questions, some other questions. Whoop, hold on. Let me go. Let's go back. You can go back right here. Oh, wait, maybe it won't let you go back. Maybe I did submit them. Oh, I didn't do question 1. All right, so let's submit it. I did question 1 and 3, right? So we'll submit this. And you can download this, but it's also going to email you. It's up to you if you want to. I'm not going to in this case. And then it shows you one submitted. So I can go in here, and I can go look at these attempts and see what I did wrong, right? So if you actually did something wrong, you can go back there and try to figure out what you did wrong. And then so I only got 2 out of 10, so I might want to take this again because that would be my grade. If I take it again and get 10 out of 10, well then, I'll get a better grade on this, right? You can take it up to 5 times. All right. Now, it'd be a good idea to save these questions, right? Because these are going to be on the final or the midterm, possibly. They could be drawn from that pool. And remember, you want to do all the ones that have number. You have to do calculations on, documented in Excel. So now that I've done, so let's assume that we did. So here we're in module 2, right? So let's assume we've done quiz 4 and 5. Well, in one workbook, I should have all those ones I worked on, and that's what you would submit. I go in here, and I go start attempt, and it says here some of the things you need to have. It also says in the rubric what you have to have. You can read that, and then this is actually the video you're watching right now, right? So you would just put it in here, save. You'd want to save this file, and then either drag it into this box, or you could go look for it and attach it, right? Either way will work. And then go submit. Okay? That's how you would do that. So hopefully I didn't go too fast or too slow, right? It's already 34 minutes. But I tried to show you a lot of information. Don't let this scare you. Now, if you've taken finance before, this is like an easy chapter. But if you haven't taken finance, you might have to do a little bit of work, right? So allow yourself some time to work on these problems, right? This is a fast-paced class. It's 8 weeks. You're doing 16 weeks worth of work in 8 weeks. So expect it to be fast-paced, all right? All right, that's it for today. My picture will come up here, so if you want to subscribe to my channel, you can click on the picture. And remember, if you want me to make any YouTube videos, let me know and I can make you a YouTube video. And then I'll post the YouTube video here in the modules too. If I make a YouTube video for this class, I'll post it here somewhere. I'll probably have something called Module 2 Resources, right? And or maybe under Module 2 Overview, I might have resources. I'm not sure where I'm going to put them. Okay, so I'll post a video if I actually end up making a video for one student. I'll post it for all the students. Now, so this shell, I'm teaching this shell, I'm creating this shell, and I'm teaching this semester. If you're another semester watching this, you might not have me as a professor, right? Might or might not. So, but if a professor can go ahead and use my YouTube channel if they want, right? That's fine. But anyway, just to know, this might not be me teaching this class sometime in the future. I'm not going to be here forever. All right, so that's it for today. Hopefully that helps you understand what you need to do, the requirements on that. Remember, this is very low stress. You can take the quizzes 5 times. It shows you the answers. I try to keep this low stress. I just want you to learn, right? I just want you to learn. That's all I want. By the way, this chapter 4, if you're going to remember something 5 years from now, this chapter 4 is probably, if I had to pick one chapter that I'd want you to remember, it'd be chapter 4. That's probably the most important thing to know if you're a finance. If you know anything on finance, chapter 4, you can pretty much figure everything else out if you know chapter 4, right? So that's why it's so important. All right. I'll talk to you later and have a good day. Hopefully that helped.